Yeah, first understand it, right? A lot of people just look at somebody else and say, I want to do what that person's doing because they see maybe what they have or whatever it might be. But first understand it, really well. And then also understand that by listening to podcasts and reading books and, listening to training material, I don't care whose it is, you're only going to scratch the surface.
Welcome, everyone, to the Road Less Traveled podcast. This podcast is all about people that were successful in their earlier career, but chose to go down a different path. I'm your co-host, Richard Coyne.
And I'm your co-host, Bill Zahller. And today's guest, we have Mark Kenney from Think Multifamily. Mark, welcome to the show. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your previous career?
I will. Yeah. Thanks, Bill, Richard, for having me. Definitely appreciate it. Good to see you guys again, too. My previous career, I was CPA for a while, did IT consulting for a long time, had an IT business, but started buying real small properties, apartments, or 2 to 4 units, basically, about 25 years ago. But primarily got caught up corporate world, then caught up my own business, and it did well. I had a number of Fortune 100 customers and things like that. So that piece of it was good. It was more on the personal side where I had issues because I didn't have any personal time and really no time to spend with my family.
All right. So then what road have you shifted to now? What path are you on?
So in 2013, my wife, Tamil, and I started looking at buying larger multifamily. So we started syndicating, just raising capital with other people as well. And it's all multifamily, 100%. We invest in some other areas as well, like passively, but as far as active, it's all 100% multifamily.
Mark, do you, from your former career or careers, is there a funny story that you can share with us? Something that kind of made you go, why am I doing this?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. So when I had my IT business, first it's one of those things where I was working as a CPA for a while, a really financial accountant, and it was pretty easy hour wise. And I switched to doing consulting and was working, I thought crazy hours. Usually at least 70, 75 hours and traveled a lot. And then, I started my own IT business and it was 90 plus hours every week. There were a couple of times, where I was close to, I don't know, probably it's not a funny story, more of a breakdown, but more like, hey, why am I doing this? When I'm on the phone, 4:00 in the morning, I haven't gone to bed yet with people in Switzerland. I had people in Australia and India and kind of all over the place. So not really a funny story per se, but definitely stories where I'm like, what in the world am I doing? But reality is, it was really one of those things where I was really getting my self-worth from my career, occupation, things like that. And I liked what I was doing as far as skill set wise, but I hated the hours, and I would sleep 3 hours a night, like consistently, like not just like once in a while. That was my norm, and not good, not healthy to be doing that.
No, maybe in the short run you can handle it, but not in the long run. No,
I did it for way too long. I don't know people. I don't know how I did it that long, but I did it for way too long.
Yeah.
Right. And you probably touched on this just a second ago with the crazy hours of, running your own business and having to do all the jobs, only so much time in a day. But was there a deciding factor that made you decide to change to the multifamily, that kind of an aha, this will make sense?
It was an aha moment. It was definitely a moment in time where, Tamil and I were, on a walk, and I like I said, I worked a ton, and I really was, I spent time with the kids, somehow, but I didn't really spend time with Tamil, and she's just like, this is not working out, it's like, you need to do something different or else, essentially. And that was my aha moment where, like, man, I had a choice to make. I could have said, well, this is, I was kind of doing what my dad did. My dad worked a lot. He was gone up to 100 hours a week because he was a firefighter. And then, so he'd be gone 72 hours, sometimes at being a firefighter, and then also work 30 to 40 hours a week in a lumber yard. And my whole thing was I provide for the family financially. I still did a lot with the kids. I did. I took them, to school if I could and picked them up if I could. But it was just one of those things where I could have said, well, this is the way it is, take it or leave it. But, I said to Tamil, I said, well, we both love real estate. She got married, when she was 20, and we started buying. I had already bought a property before that, and then we started buying small properties. We both really loved real estate, and I said, well, why don't we look at doing larger multifamily properties? And I had a friend of mine that was syndicating, and frankly, I didn't even know what syndication was until 2013. Never heard of it. And I invested passively with him, and then invested in a few other deals with another friend of mine that was doing syndications. I'm like, well, we could do this, but I told Tamil, I need your help because I'm not trying to make an excuse hour-wise, but I really didn't have much time to be doing, a lot of extra stuff. So that's where we then ended up co-founding Think Multifamily, and she's been not just a support, she's been tremendous asset in building the business.
Excellent.
That's
yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So Mark, as you were kind of really moving on that path to really shift to your newer focus of multifamily, were there some obstacles you encountered early on the way that you had to overcome?
Yeah, biggest one, was kind of the fear factor, I guess. I mean, I was nervous making offers because what if I get it? And then it was like, okay, I'm gonna go raise money. I mean, I never raised money before, and that was by far my biggest fear piece. I mean, analyzing deals. I mean, CPA, technical background with IT, that came, pretty easy for me overall. A lot of the other aspects, talking to brokers is fine, but the part about, if you want to say asking for money, and people tell you now, we're not really asking for money, you're providing opportunity. But in my mind, I was asking for money for a deal. And I didn't even want to ask my dad for money growing up. I was really nervous and scared asking my dad for money. So ask complete, in some cases, people I just met or people I met, at events, it was a big concern of mine. I didn't know whether we could do it or not. Yeah. That was one. The second piece was when I was doing my IT business at that time, I thought I was doing pretty well, which I was financially doing pretty well. And when we were going to switch to kind of go to multifamily, kind of more on a full-time basis, I did not think I could replace my IT income. And that was okay with me overall. I mean, I'd say it's okay with me. We would have been still fine. We'd still be able to have a good life and stuff like that. But that was a big fear of mine that I don't think I can replace my IT income.
Right. Yeah, that's certainly a factor that with many people that want to make a change. You really have to put some good forward planning into trying to do something like that. And obviously, hopefully, you've got the right reasons, as in like in your case, obviously doing the right thing for your family, staying married, exactly. And so it's really cool that you do that with you and Tamil do that together. So that's awesome. Yeah,
it is. And we. I was able to scale things back. So I talk to people a lot. I mean, you guys do too, I'm sure. But some people say, well, should I just quit my job? And it's like, if you have, this is my personal opinion, if you have a wife, kids, or whatever like that, and, no, you shouldn't just quit your job, unless you're financially set to do that for a long time. If not, you're being irresponsible. So will you go slower? Most likely, if you have a W-2 job and still trying to do this, yeah, most likely you're going to go slower. But take care of your responsibilities. I mean, I didn't just quit my job.
It's kind of a catch-22. People think of that, if I only quit, I'd have more time to do it, but then you're starting at a lower basis. So you kind of, like you said, you got to balance it out and kind of grow it. And as you gain momentum and traction on that, you can kind of shift over at that point to the new path.
We've had people that do it. We have people that, because they're in a position where they can do it, right, for some sort of extended period of time. But if you're not, then don't do it.
Yeah. Well, Mark, what was like one of your first victories you can think of on the new path? And you said raising equity was always a thought in the back of your mind, kind of a concern. Was it that, getting the deal under contract, closing the first property? What would you categorize that as?
Victory. For me, first deal I think is always a big win. It really is. It gave me the confidence that, hey, I can actually do what we ended up raising. At the time, seemed like a lot, but we did it, pretty easily overall. And then shortly after that, did another deal. But probably for me, one of the biggest victories was when I did my third deal. I guess it was fourth because we bought one portfolio, but fourth deal. it actually put me in a position where I could quit doing IT 100% stop doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty significant for me because my son at that time was maybe 10 or so, whatever he was. He's 16 now. And he was like, well, did you get another project yet? Can you quit doing IT yet? And he would ask me on a regular basis,
Mm-hmm.
did you get another deal? Can you quit? Because at that time I was still doing a fair bit of IT plus doing, the multifamily. And that was the one where I did it. It was a bigger deal for us when we did it. And that at that point in time, I felt comfortable that I could step back pretty much completely from IT and, focus 100% on multifamily. So that was probably the biggest victory in my mind.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So Mark, on your new path and your new endeavor where you're doing those larger multifamily properties, do you have any funny stories for us around that? Is anything that's been strange?
Strange. I don't know. I mean, every deal has some unique whatever, I mean, it could be, I'll say as simple as like, I guess it would have been actually the first deal we ever bought. Now think about it.
Mhm.
It was 3-4 days before closing, and the lender says they're not going to sign off on it because there's an HOA on the property. It was 32 and then another 32, but they were condos, but they were never sold as condos. And even the seller was like, there's no HOA here. There never has been since 1984 when they were built.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of more of it's not really a funny story, but it's just one of those things where every single deal seems to have something that comes up for whatever reason. But I've done like 59 transactions now. So it's kind of like,
wow,
you identify stuff a lot faster. You fix them a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's just certain things like when you go on property tours and or due diligence, there are definitely some stories there where, we've seen drug deals go down. We've seen, I think prostitutes, deals, whatever, not physically go down, but, things like that. Or you go in and there was like opened up the kitchen cabinet by the sink and there was a possum under the sink, a live one, not dead, a live one.
Even more fun.
So, yeah. So that actually was in Atlanta. It was in Atlanta actually, where you guys are. So there's always usually something kind of going on. You go in, and the time before, marijuana was even where it is now. Some, people are blowing weed while you're there doing a property tour. Just like, okay, but it makes it a little more interesting when they're going through.
Right.
Yeah, we had one particular tour where we looked at a property that seemed like it was in a nice area, but as we got on property, oh man, the parking lot was a total disaster. It was just all potholes all over the place. And then we went into one of the units. The unit was pretty sketchy in terms of just how the condition it was in. And what was it, Bill? I think there was a dead rat laying over there in one corner, and the person kind of commented, "No, this unit's rent ready." We're like, "Oh my lord!"
Because they mentioned the down unit. We're like, this is one of your down units, and like, oh no, this is the rent ready one.
Oh boy! We've seen a lot of things. I mean, we've seen one guy. He had taken a pipe and ran it from his bathroom into his closet in the bedroom, and had a kind of a tattoo shop set up in his apartment with a custom sink. I mean, just like people are creative, but some weird things.
Always some interesting stories.
Yeah. One of the things that was always a little concerning for us is when, this is before COVID days, but if we did a tour and there's, it's, just call it a 3-bedroom apartment where you got, lots of adults home during the day and on a property tour, that's a little, kind of makes you scratch your head a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of wear and tear too on the units, right? And then if you're paying for water as a landlord, a lot of use being, for those type of things, electricity, all those things, they have a big impact, on the expenses.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, Mark, where are you at now on your new journey? You've got over 4,000 units, I believe, now, and you continue to say 59 transactions. And so where are you currently as you've progressed down this path?
Yeah, we have like 7,500
Oh,
transactions or 7,500 units now, in
excellent.
9 states, and we're continuing to expand it in different states. I mean, we're never going to be in all 50 states. Never have a desire to be in all 50
Right.
states. Something I would never care to be in. But we're primarily Texas and Southeast,
Mhm.
and then focusing a little bit on the Midwest right now as well. But it's continuing to do transactions and then trying to help other people that want to do transactions too, that want to syndicate and that might want to, do what position I was in, right? A lot of people are in the position where they have good jobs, but they're lacking on the time with family or the flexibility to be able to do things. And it's great to see people that can end up kind of making that switch. It doesn't happen overnight, like people try to sell you or whatever. It doesn't. It takes time to do that. It's a lot of work. It's frustrating. But personally, I wouldn't do anything else. I mean, I love what I'm doing. And to
Mm-hmm.
be able to see people that, especially young guys, man, some of these guys are like in their 20s and are out doing, 100 plus unit deals. And it's awesome to see that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah, actually, I attended a kind of a webinar a couple years back where this young guy that was literally still in the Air Force Academy already owned a couple of I'm going to say just call them duplexes. He owned like 2 duplexes already, and he was trying to work on a high 90s, maybe 100 units, and I'm like,
Yeah.
holy moly, that's
Yeah.
I can only imagine if I had got started way back then
Right.
myself. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So,
You-
so Mark, where is your path forward? Where does, as you continue on this, what you're doing now, where do you see yourself, down the road?
Yeah. It's more of what we're doing. It really is. I mean, I'll continue to do transactions on my own. People are like, I really don't get as excited when I do a transaction as having somebody else do their first transaction or seeing
Mhm.
someone do their fourth transaction, whatever, and then gets put in a position to quit their job or whatever. And quit your job's relative because you're typically still working as a multifamily, syndicator or investor.
Mhm.
So you're not usually just going to sit on the beach. I mean, you can get in a position where you could do that, but most people don't want to do that. But it really is, we feel that there are a lot of good people out there that are, kind of helping other people, and some other people out there, frankly, in my mind, that, I feel bad when people get hooked up with them. I just do. So the more people we can kind of connect with, we're not for everybody. We're not. And frankly, we don't let everyone into our group, even if they want to come into our group. But it's trying to get the people to understand that there's another way other than working W-2. The 4 units and below just does not have the same effect from a increase in net worth, and the way the lenders look at it and all those things. So helping educate more and more people on this as an option. So get educated first. If they decide they want to do it, then I have a huge desire to try to help people really do that 100 plus unit. There's really no reason to start with 4 or 5 units or 20 units. You can if you want. There's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
But but understand that you can start. We have one guy right now. I mean, his very first deal, he's doing a $26 million deal. His first deal.
Wow.
And I mean, I don't necessarily suggest that for everybody,
Mhm.
but he's able to do that. So that's pretty cool to see that.
Right.
We have another guy that was in another group, and he's in our group now, and he had in less than 6 months, he's a co-GP in 5 deals.
Mhm.
So
That's
you
great.
can do things quickly. There's sometimes luck involved in it too. Your right place, right time. That happens too. But it really, for us, it's really a big passion. I never even wanted to do education 5 years ago. I mean, if someone would tell me we're going to do education, I would say there's no way I'm going to do it. I mean, I have no desire to do it.
Mhm.
But through some circumstances, it kind of worked out that way, and then both Tamil and I fell in love with it. So, and we have community, all our friends. We hang out with people from our group all the time, so that's helped me a lot, kind of personally, because when I did IT, I kind of make this statement where I really didn't care really about you, I guess, or that you're married or had kids. I'm there to fix a problem. I was kind of a problem solver, right? I would
Yeah.
come into projects that were messed up, and that's what I'm there. I get paid to fix problems. But now, my whole life, I mean, we go out all the time with people from our group and stuff like that, as
Mhm.
friends, and hang out and go on vacations together and stuff like that. So that part of it is something I didn't have before, and I feel bad I didn't have it, but it is something that we have now. And Tamil and I get to do it together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mark, what's something you've recently implemented in your business to help you achieve your goals?
We've tried a lot of different things. One of the biggest things that we've seen is doing some webinars. I mean, sound basic, but doing webinars that are very content based. I mean, these guys that do webinars at all, just pie in the sky and things like that, I mean, it's fine. But reality is I'm more of a nuts and bolts type guy. And we've gotten just a ton of traction off the webinars like that. So that's been good. We're always kind of changing different things up. One of the big things we've done is before, if people wanted to join our group when we first started it, we really didn't vet them. If people want to sign up, why would you possibly not let somebody sign up? Now we do vet people. And we, unfortunately or fortunately, I'm not sure which, we turn people away too. So those are, we're always kind of evolving there, just trying to keep the culture. But I would say, I mean, we've done webinars before, I mean, even in the past, but some of the ones we've done a few months ago, we've gotten a lot of traction off those. I think just because they're very content based. One was around deal analysis and tricks people play and analysis and things like that. So that's been really well received.
That's great.
So Mark, if looking back again, if what kind of key piece of advice would you give to somebody who's contemplating changing their path and really going down a different route?
Yeah, first understand it, right? A lot of people just look at somebody else and say, I want to do what that person's doing because they see maybe what they have or whatever it might be. But first understand it, really well. And then also understand that by listening to podcasts and reading books and, listening to training material, I don't care whose it is, you're only going to scratch the surface, right? You have to get involved in a deal. There's no one's ever gone through a deal. So that was way less steps and way easier than I ever thought it was going to be. It's a complete opposite, right? There was way more steps and a lot more, involved than I thought it was going to be. Luckily I had help with some of the people. You try to do on your own. And I think it doesn't matter. And people say, oh, you say this because it's coaching. I don't care who it is, but find somebody that's doing that you want to do and partner up with them. Doesn't have to be a coach or mentor. It can be a partner, someone you met at a meetup. Doesn't really matter. But the idea that, hey, I think I'm decently smart guy and I'm a hustler and I'm a go-getter and all those things, to think you can go out and buy a 100+ unit deal, it's not realistic. You have to have a track record unless you're just going to overpay. Those are pretty much your options.
Yeah. There's so much. Again, fine. You're smart. You're ambitious. You want to go get it. You want to make it happen. It's fine. You educate yourself, but it's still a team that has to be there. You still have a lot of folks that you need to rely on very heavily to get that deal done. From property management to your legal team. To how you're going to raise the money, how you're going to operate the property. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces.
Yeah, and in particular as well, when you're talking to brokers, if you're, hey, how many deals have you done? Well, this is my first deal. I've never done one before versus, I'm teamed up with, whatever, Bill and Richard, and together we've done X. Leverage other people's, and people are like, oh, well, that's critical because I can tell you brokers typically already have their buyers in mind.
Right. Yep. Right. And again, once you get past the broker stage, if you do get somebody to work with you from a brokerage standpoint, the lenders want to see your experience. How are they going to? Why would they want to put 80% of a deal or 70% of a deal if the operator, the person who's the face, maybe doesn't have any experience? That's a huge risk. Right. So,
and it's even more so now. I mean, with the last several months, they've made changes to make it more strict. But I mean, to your point about having a team, because we talk to people all the time, and people they wanna go. In some cases, I'd say even too fast. Meaning, hey, I'm gonna go call brokers right now. Well, first of all, you don't even know how to underwrite a deal yet, right? So you practice with deals, and we give people deals to practice with, and then there's kind of like an answer key and things like that, right? But do the fundamentals first, the basics, which you can do pretty quickly. It's not like you're going to waste, months and months of time, but do those things first start, like you mentioned, start building your team. Make sure you have an attorney and a CPA and an insurance broker and, selling brokers and people that can sign the loan if you can't do it, and people that can help with capital if you don't have all the capital. Make sure you have all those things in place ahead of time, because if you don't, then you're gonna be hurting potentially.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that you're the person you mentioned doing the $26 million deal. They could easily have $1 million or maybe $500,000 out of pocket up front before that deal even closes.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And again, got to have some friends or some deep pockets yourself to be able to do that. So
right, and that's a key, right? Is people that say, well, I can only do like a 10 unit because my net worth liquidity is this, or I have this much to put into the property, and that's fine. Some people should only work by themselves, and I really mean that, right? But if people are like, well, you know what, like in that example, I mentioned another guy who was in 5 co-GP in less than 6 months. Well, it's because he had some net worth liquidity to sign the loan, and he's able to bring some capital. But he's not the one out finding deals. He's not the one asset managing. He's not, he's only putting part of the earnest money up. So there are people out there that have something that probably in an area that you don't have, and they're more than willing to, partner with people. But I also tell people we don't want to work with people that we don't want to work with. So you have to be, I don't care how smart. The same with IT. I used to have some developers that were just phenomenal developers. I don't want on my team. Nobody wants to work with them. Not a team player. There's too much, head damage. There's too much, whining going on, or whatever it might be. I don't want them on the team. I don't care how good they are. So same in real estate. You have to be a team player, and you have to be good buyers and good sellers, because it's a very, very small world, and brokers talk across all the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. We picked up we did a deal last year, in 19, where this particular buyer was trying to come into the market that we were, in, and they actually got the first run at the property, and then they did something really dumb that just burned their reputation with that broker, and the broker came back to Bill and I, and we're like, yeah, absolutely, we're ready to go, let's do this. But that person did something pretty dumb that's going to hurt him for a while.
It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, great, Mark. What's the best way for people to reach out to you and learn more about your educational platform also?
Yeah, just my email, Mark, MARK, at thinkmultifamily.com. Probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay, excellent. Great. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes below also. We'd like to thank today's guest, Mark Kenney, for being on the Road Less Travel podcast. We enjoy the discussion and wish you continued success.
Thanks, guys. Good seeing you again.
Absolutely. We'd also like to thank our audience. We really appreciate you listening and downloading, and we certainly also really want to thank our sponsors. Remember, the Road Less Travel may be calling you. We recommend that you listen and take action. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, guys.